Wow, what an intro there. Good job, Ed Diller, on that. This is Sal International here with the Black Knight Nation podcast. We're calling this old grads here, right? Steve and Jason, we're calling this old grads, where ex-Army football players get together and talk about their memories of their careers and also the current product of the Black Knights, which are heading to the Liberty Bowl on December 31st against West Virginia. Pretty pumped up for that, right, Steve? I mean, after Sunday, it was pretty disappointing what was going on, and now you look at a bowl game against West Virginia, a Big 12 conference team.
Hey, so yeah, that news is pretty awesome to hear that bowl game against West Virginia coming up. I know I speak for a lot of the fans, a lot of the old players who were just devastated when they heard that the bowl game was a no-go after that big win against Air Force. So it's always good to see the Army team win, and always good to hear the Army team's got another game on the horizon.
Yeah, no doubt. It was it's been a wild, crazy today. It was like calm after the storm, pretty much. There wasn't a lot of news going on. The only news really is that Army practiced, and they were on the practice field this morning, and they were getting ready for a bowl game, which maybe 48 hours ago we didn't think it was going to happen.
So you got me?
Yeah, I got you. You're good.
All right, a little technical difficulties, but yeah, no,
That's all right.
I was glad to see, they got the Liberty Bowl. One, selfishly, I'm 3 hours away. I've already secured my bowl game tickets, so I will be going for sure, which will be good. I saw that the committee put out that there'll be about a quarter to a fifth of the stadium that they're filled, so 12 to 13,000 I think will be there. So I'll be loud enough for about probably 5,000 to 6,000 myself. So we'll be ready to get after it come New Year's Eve.
We'll have a Black Knight Nation member in attendance. Steve, I looked up today. I'm like, maybe I'll think about driving down from New Jersey to Memphis, right? I'll drive down and maybe see if I can cover the game. Well, that'll probably end up in divorce, first of all, and then then I looked at the drive, 16 hours one way. I'm like, there's no way I could do that. There's just no way I could. But I mean, we'll have you in attendance. That's great. I mean, it seems like in these bowl games in the past, there's been a lot of Army fans in attendance at these bowl games, right? I mean, it seems like it's going to be a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal to play in the postseason, and it seems like these bowl games are always well attended. So,
yeah, no, it'll be good. I think a really good opponent for us to really set us to the next stage. I mean, this team has played, a couple top tier teams, at least whatever you want to call the highly ranked coaches poll or whatever. They had a big win against, I think, K-State this year. They got handed to by Iowa State, but it's still a good team that they can play. And I think they also played Texas close earlier in the year, which shows you that this is a good WVU team. Their running backs averaging over 100 yards per game, so we're gonna have to come ready and get over this emotional. No one cares that we've had an emotional roller coaster the past week and a half. It's time. Yep, the game is set. That's the next opponent, and it's time to get focused and show the national stage. Just how good Army football is.
Yeah, Jason, the last couple of days with Army getting all this national media attention. Now, I mean, I don't know if it doesn't put pressure on the team, but it would be nice to see them show up. It would be nice to see the team show up and have a good showing against against a Power 5 school to prove that Black Knights belong amongst the top 25 in the nation, right?
Absolutely, Sal. As a player going into every game, you go in the same mentality, no matter who you're playing, whether that's Sisters of the Poor or it's West Virginia or it's Alabama. I know the team's excited about the last two wins, but watching some of the conferences and some of the interviews from some of the players and coaches, it's on to the next game. It's reset, refocus your mind, and get ready for the next team.
Yeah, I don't know. Coach Monken, he's done some interviews in the past couple of days. He had a press conference today, and he also just finished his radio show. And if you read into it a little bit, it seems like teams didn't want to play Army. You know, teams that Independence Bowl was trying to set, maybe a Boise State or a team from the Pac-12, and they want nothing to do on a short notice to prepare against Army's offense. So, West Virginia stepped up to the plate yesterday. I mean, it wasn't too long after you heard, hey, Tennessee's out, that West Virginia's coach Neil Brown tweeted, hey, we're in, let's play ball. So that's a good sign that we don't know West Virginia. Who knows who they're who's gonna show up for Army? Who knows who's gonna show up for West Virginia with the COVID testing? You just don't know. Are you gonna get Army's best or West Virginia's best? But it's a postseason bowl game, and you guys have experienced those games. I mean, that 2010 game was something special and something that I'll always remember. So
there it is, Steve. There it is.
Now you brought that out. You just happen to have the hat in your proximity, or?
No, I actually this is my traveling hat. So me and the wife and the kids did a little traveling today. So
I know you got like 3 of those hats, man. I need one. I wore mine out.
It's got 10 years on it, man. This has got some character on it now.
Now that's the hat that they handed out to you when you won the bowl, or no?
Yeah, I think it was one of the either not for winning. I think this was just one of the hats that we got for being at the Armed Forces Bowl. But Sal, back to your point, really 2 main points is, one of the problems I have with the Pac-12 and these guys, kind of copping out is one, they kind of look at it as a lose-lose. Like they go to a bowl, they play Army, they beat Army, they're supposed to beat them, like no big deal. But if they lose to Army, it's a huge loss to that program, is how I kind of feel. And that's how I kind of looked at, those teams opting out about how, we just want to play. And then they get a chance to play. And they say, well, we don't want to play that bad. So a little kind of pissed me off to hear teams just kind of not want to play in a bowl game. Well, that's a good bowl, whether it's the Military Bowl or the Independence Bowl. I mean, any postseason bowl game, it's a bowl game. And then I immediately screenshotted that article that said Tennessee out, Army in, and I live in Fort Campbell, so I'm right there with a bunch of UT fans all over the place, and I just start saying it out like, hey, where's your team at? Like, what's up? You guys are weak. And they're like, we didn't deserve the game as much as Army did anyway. So it was nice to see that other people respected the fact that, Army did the right thing. The coach and all these guys said it all year that, these guys have been on lockdown since 1 June. They've done the right things. They've stayed there. West Point's not the most enjoyable place as a cadet. It's awesome when you go back there and visit, but it's pretty miserable as a cadet. And those guys did the right thing. And, it's paying off. And I don't think any media, any public relation wanted to get the fact that, they're going to keep Army out of a bowl game this year after going 9-2.
Right. Yeah. When the founder of Barstool Sports is offering to sponsor a bowl game for Army, I think that was enough to get it going. Yeah, you could appear on the Dan Patrick Show, the Rich Eisen Show, Sirius XM Radio, but I really think that when he got the ball rolling, no doubt, with some national buzz on this, and Jeff Monken did a lot of interviews. It was almost like he was on a media tour, blitz, so to speak, on Monday, but it worked out. So. Could you guys imagine spending from June 1st to now December 22nd on post without being allowed to leave post at all? Can you imagine that?
So long as the gym is open, Sal, and the chow hall is open, I think we'll be just fine. But that's just speaking from football perspective. But being at West Point, it's a great experience altogether. So I know the guys got real close together. It's part of what you're seeing from the Army Navy game, Army Air Force game, brotherhood we get going on. It's magical this year because they are so tight knit. They've been together like brothers for the past 9 months, and they're really getting after it out there on the field, and it shows in the discipline play and in the 1-2 mentality out there. So, at the end of the day, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is, it's going to fly by as long as you're having a good time with the boys.
Yeah, I think it's. I think one. I know I would probably get pretty creative on what I could do to blow off some steam as a senior, within the realm. I know all of us would be. Maybe we'll get some other guys on here to talk about what they could do. But yeah, I think it's just it's so perfect that we had a 4th and goal on the 1 stop against Navy. You know, a team that's kind of delivered their will against us in the past, right? We stopped them 4th and goal. And then we get a 4th and goal on the 1, punch it in against Air Force, a team that we just, you know, you just don't like. You know, we talked about that last week, Sal. So it just kind of really, really was just kind of like the perfect, you know, poetic moment for Army football this year to end with a CIC with a 4th and 1 on the goal line stop against Navy and a punch it in against Air Force to seal it. So really cool going into the bowl game. We got the momentum. So we got to learn the X's and O's against West Virginia and then take it to them. It's going to be tough.
And so just to go back to your question there too, you know, thinking more about the question, Army, Navy, Air Force, they all have the same mentality. You know, we are used to disciplining our routine, our regiment. We have a very regimented lifestyle. We don't have a whole lot of distractions outside of the football or military aspect or academics aspect. I think what we're seeing now is these big teams aren't doing so well this year. Like you look at any team across the board, they're just not performing as they have in last year because they don't have those distractions to keep them occupied. With Army, with any of the military academies, you know, we're used to that regimental lifestyle. We're used to not having a whole lot of outside distractions, and we can cope with that, and we can keep moving. I think a lot of other teams outside of the military academies are having that distraction of not being able to be distracted, not be able to go out with your friends to a bar on the weekdays, not being able to skip class, not being able to do all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying they all do that. All I'm saying is that Army, Navy, Air Force, we're all kind of used to that typical routine of wake up, work out, eat, school, football, go back to your room, do military and homework, and go to bed. So I think COVID actually played a huge factor in our benefit.
No doubt. And you read when you're watching CBS Sports Network games on Army, right? They always have like Steve Anderson's schedule for the day, you know, where it starts and where it finishes, or they always feature a player like that. I don't know. The reporter in me, guys, on that 4th and 1 from Army during the timeout, I'm like, wait a second. What if this, you know, I had a little skepticism about whether they would get in or not. But Steve, there was no doubt they were going to get in, right?
I mean, honestly, Sal, what are we doing if we're not the premier leadership institute and not going for it on 4th and 1 and we don't punch it in? I just think, you know, I hate to use the word poetic because it's kind of soft, but it just is. It exemplifies what Army football is. Like we had 1st and goal on the 4, right? 4 tries, 4 yards out. There's no way we're not getting this. I don't care if it was 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard. We were getting it. There was no doubt in my mind. I was actually by myself at the Air Force game with my 2 boys. My boys were playing at the time, and I called them up to the room, and I made sure we shared that moment together. I made them watch it, and it was a really cool experience where it was just me and my 2 boys watching Army go 4th and goal on the 1 and put it in. We wrestled. I threw them all around. We jumped up and down, you know. It was just a really cool experience, and I was so glad that you know, I got to experience it with them.
No doubt. And I mean, we could do a game review of that. It's simple. You just knocked out the game review in pretty much a second. You know, just about what that game means, and you know, the 4th and 1s, and you know. But you look, Jason. Maybe you could speak on this a little bit about the offensive line during a 16-play drive and what that's like, because they had a couple freshmen on that offensive line playing at the time during that big game winner. And, you know, it's just that, you know, when it's a service academy game, you know, the games are pretty much won in the trenches, right? I mean, to a point, I mean, they're won on the lines. And for the Army, they call them the mob, right? For the mob to step up at that point in time, Jason, they had, you know, walk us through what that might have been, you know, for them.
It's hard to explain what the offensive line mentality is compared to any other player on the field. You know, kudos to Jordan Law stepping up huge this last game as at left tackle. Left tackle is not a easy position, and he stepped up huge. But when you got a guy like Mike Johnson on the line, you know, your senior captain, left guard, coaching him through it, you know, as a left tackle freshman, having that experience, it's always comforting to have a leader on the team next to you. But to get to your question, an offensive line is only as good as its weakest link, and everybody knows that. What I noticed from this offensive line this year is they are disciplined footwork, disciplined eyes, disciplined helmet location on the hip pad when they're blocking, and everyone's got their job down pat. It's always comforting to see elite offensive linemen lift up their quarterback or running back off the ground too. It shows that that brotherhood's strong in there, and they're rushing to the pylon and helping their brother up. So there's no doubt in my mind they're getting to the end zone.
Nothing against previous Army offensive lines, but it seems like this year, I don't know the season or not, it seems like there's been less penalties from the offensive line. There's been less false starts. There's been less holding penalties. There's not enough. I only recall maybe one or two chop blocks the whole season. Maybe there hasn't been a lot. So you're great point under discipline, and they've been shuffling guys in. Peyton Reeder and JB Hunter on the right side of the line have been banged up a little bit, and sometimes like a Dean Powell or a Shane Finucane has to step up. And Luke McCleary's bounced around from left tackle to right tackle. He's a senior who's really, this is his first year really getting playing time. So, I mean, the offensive line are always unheralded, right, Jason? I mean, you guys don't – I remember talking to a bunch of guys, even like a Bryce Holland. Steve, you know Bryce Holland well. They don't care about the headlines, They just want to win. They just want to win and lead the team. That's all they really care about. So, I mean, it's good to see sometimes where the offensive line gets some deserving credit. It's not something that we really touched about in podcasts about that Air Force game before. So it's great to have Jason to give that perspective. You guys want to talk about your bowl memories of 2010? I mean, to me as a reporter, that's one of the best games I've covered in my Army career. I mean, just to see that game, just to go to a bowl game live. It's the only bowl game I went to live in my time as a reporter. And I mean, that was a amazing game, Steve. Amazing game from start to finish, pretty much. And I don't know if you guys want to spend some time talking about that. Just first of all, what the experience and what that's like, and then the play in the game. You play the home team basically. You're playing the home team on the home field, and and that kind of gets Army started. Like you could see Jeff Monken's era is great and stuff like that, but it was a while. That was a 14-year drought for Army with no bowl win. It's longer than that. No bowl, and then bowl wins. You got to go into the mid '80s. So I mean, man, I bet you those memories still stick pretty close to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it being me and Jason's senior year, I think it made it a little extra sweet for us to go out. Having always lost the Air Force and Navy, and then kind of ending our careers with a win is always kind of easy to hang up the boots when you do that, or I should say the cleats. I guess I still wear boots.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, we. Like we said, Sal, Army travel is great. And we might have been playing at SMU Stadium. They might have been used to playing there, but I think we had at least half the crowd there rooting for us, which always helps. It's always nice to have be Army because, in Texas, you knew you were going to get a crowd, whether they were coming from Fort Sill or Fort Hood or, even Fort Bliss, because, it's the first bowl game since 1996 and a chance to win since 1985. I mean, those stats are incredible when you think about what we were able to accomplish that year. Plus, it was just an awesome experience. I remember Coach Ellison traveled a bunch of guys so we could all experience. So that next class could see what it was like. Like, hey, let's come back here. And our motto that year was bring it back. Bring winning football back. And we had a first winning season since 1996, and first bowl win since 1985. So I think we did that. It was awesome. Josh McNary, I think it was like one of the first couple series of the game. Zach Watts coming off the edge, stripping, McNary picking it up, scoring a touchdown, defense getting on the board quick. And then, I just remember, the pass, the Trent Steelman to David Brooks at the end of the game, after SMU used their timeouts, and just knowing that was it. Me and Coach Sadat hugging afterwards, me and Coach Schmeling, and just a great feeling.
Jason, you were a second lieutenant in that game, right, or no?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Mike Gann and I were second lieutenants. I think we were the only officers ever commissioned or cadets ever commissioned and played in a bowl game for Army. But having that kind of responsibility on your shoulders, saying, "Hey, I'm now in the Army. I'm a commissioned officer," and just being with the boys still and be able to play that last game was super special.
I remember being on the field, I guess toward the end of the game, or maybe even the celebration, and I'm next to Ronnie Makeda. I'm next to Ronnie Makeda, who was the quarterback, of course, of the '96 team. He was on the field cheering you guys on. I know he lived locally, and just talking to him just briefly for a few seconds, and just the pride that he had in you guys. I mean, incredible, just an incredible feeling. And Steve, I mean, you were the MVP of the game, right?
Yeah, Roger.
Is that trophy? Do you have that MVP trophy still, or is that in Army's possession? Where is that trophy right now?
Oh, it's in my man cave. I guess I should call it a lair, man lair. It's upstairs. It's hanging up. I'm proud of it. I think it's something cool that, as my boys get older, they'll see that I wasn't always slow and beat up my whole life. I did have some ability back in the day, which will be nice. But I think one of my biggest mentors who I still talk to today is Ben Coweca, and he was a linebacker for the '96 team. And he really, when I first came to West Point Prep, he was my defensive coordinator, and he was the defensive captain of the '96 team. And he really shaped my mentality of how I kind of went from, how I only cared about being the best individual person I could be to really holding everybody accountable at prep school. And that's where me and Pat Mealy really bonded, and Kingsley Ahee, Donovan Travis, Josh McNary, all those guys that were part of that team. We all were at West Point Prep. Coach Coweca kind of went from, making me, you try to make me the best linebacker as possible. You try to really showed me how to be the best leader. And it starts with, one, you got to know your job in order to hold people accountable. And then it's, player accountability is the biggest thing. And I know, Jason was big on that on the offensive side of the ball. I didn't care on the defense. Like, your job and you got to do your job. And I think, it's been 10 years, Sal, since we played in that bowl game. December 30th, 2010 was, our bowl game. This will be 10 years later. And it's good to see that there's only one way you have that kind of discipline, that kind of accountability, that kind of effort, that kind of passion, and that kind of success on a football team, and that's player accountability. Like Jason said, the offensive line, like, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and in the defensive, defensive line or defensive backfield, you're only as strong. It only takes that one mistake, and you can get gashed. And we'll see it out there. In West Virginia is going to spread us out. They're going to try to establish a run play action, and spread us out. Think they can wear us down, because they're bigger or whatever they think. And that'll be, all the games as much as. As a linebacker and as running backs and quarterbacks and all the skill positions, as much as we want to believe, we're doing the job to win the game, we know every game is one in the trenches. If you don't control the line of scrimmage, you'll lose every single game. So it's going to be a key, New Year's Eve.
No doubt. Just want to let everybody know, if you'd like to put a comment or a question up, send us your comments and questions. We'll answer them to the best of our ability here. We enjoy hearing from people who are watching right now. And you can also follow us on YouTube at Black Knight Nation. You can follow us. We're on Apple Podcasts now, so that's pretty cool. We're on Apple Podcasts at Black Knight Nation, and we're just starting to get this thing going. And with these tomorrow, I have a podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cole Masik. He played. He was in the class with Darnell Woolfolk and Andy Davidson at West Point. He was basically our third or fourth string fullback his sophomore year. He had a big 100-yard game against a Patriot League school. I'm thinking Colgate, something like that. He's now an MMA fighter. So I'm going to have him on tomorrow. We're going to talk a little Army football. We're going to talk a little MMA. We're going to talk about the band that he had with guys like James Nautical on campus and Chandler Ramirez. They had a band at one time, I believe, at West Point. So, there's a lot.
I'd like to meet him.
Dude, it's a lot to unpack, man. Hey, you're welcome back on. I know you probably have better things to do tomorrow night, Steve. You don't want to make it 2 nights in a row, but he'll be back tomorrow, and he'll be on tomorrow night. So it'll be a great interview. Cole is one of the most engaging guys. He was only there for 2 years, man, and I wish he was there for 4 because that guy. I mean, when Trump won the election, we were talking about it a little bit, and he said that basically Trump won Pennsylvania because he voted for Trump. And his vote counted so much that Trump won Pennsylvania. And I wrote a quick blog about it just for the heck of it, because that's the kind of guy, it's different. It's something different. He was a different cat, no doubt. So we'll talk to Cole. He also has his own podcast, and he also sells real estate. So, I mean, it's just everything going on with him. So we'll have him tomorrow. Enough of the plugs. Hopefully we'll get some comments and some questions. But Jason, real quick, this Army team, the leadership on the team, the senior leadership, Munkin's talked about that a lot. And in a situation like this with the COVID, and you just don't know from day to day what's going to go on, especially what kind of team you have and the like. Can you talk about the leadership and how important that is on a team, especially at Army? And what have you seen anything just from watching the games? Maybe you had some good observations on the offensive line. What have you saw with the leadership, and how big is that for this team this year?
Absolutely, Sal. The captains that we had, so at one point we were rotating captains through every game as far as like a game captain. I think the intent behind that was to show that every player on the team can be a leader and a captain, and they're going to be at some point in the military career. As soon as you commission, you're automatically assumed to be a leader in the Army. As far as our actual captains on the team, they were outstanding. I mean, Steve was the all-star, obviously MVP of the bowl game, and that was for a reason, because he showed 3 main things, and it's 3 things that every team needs to have to be successful, in my opinion. These 3 tiers. First one's discipline, disciplined feet, disciplined eyes, disciplined with the snap count, and then the discipline to do your job and do it well. That's not just in the on the football field. That's in the academic realm at West Point. That's in the military tier as well. Just having the discipline to do the right thing at all times. The second thing there is being coachable, and as we've seen with this year with injuries, that next man up drill is huge. You don't know when it's going to be your time to get on the field. You don't know when it's going to be your call, and having the ability to be coachable and flexible to what the need is for the team and what you can do for the team is huge. And I think we've seen that time and time again with this team this year. The last thing is the desire, the want to win, want to do well, want to help your players out, your teammates, your brothers, and get them to the end zone. Or it's as we saw during the bowl game, the Bell Helicopter Bowl, 10 years ago, that was a defensive fight. Offense is on the field far less than the defense was, but we all relied on each other to do our jobs, and we knew at the end of the game that the defense really won that game for us because of their actions. It was a physical fight, physical game. But at the end of the day, we all relied on each other to do our job and to do it well.
No doubt. Steve, I was thinking about the SMU offense at that point. They had some guys that went on to play in the NFL, didn't they, or did they not?
Yeah, I think they're I'm pretty sure their running back, he was a bigger back. I think his name was Richie, I think. I can't remember. I think he played
was it Zach Fine, maybe? Was that his name or no?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Fine, yeah. But he played in the league for a little bit. That was actually that was the first game anybody had ever trash talked me to a point where they told me I was going to die in Iraq next year. So that was
really.
Yeah, that was the first time that ever happened. Out of all the, I played games since I was a freshman at Army. My very last game, I remember, was a special teams player. It was one of their special teams players, and I hit him pretty good, and he was on the ground. And I was like, you like that, baby? And he just like, yeah, well, you're gonna die in Iraq next year. And I was like, damn,
wow,
that was kind of hit me right in the feels. Took the wind out of me, But yeah, the running back was really good. They had a wide receiver. I think their wide receiver got offensive play of the game. I think he had about 100 yards against us. The quarterback wasn't bad. I knew I believe they actually were swapping quarterbacks because we dinged up the first string up a little bit, but I was able to.
You know what's crazy? I just looked on their roster, and they have multiple NFL guys that are on their roster. Cole Beasley was in that game. He plays for the Bills now, right? The former Cowboys receiver. You played against Cole Beasley that game. Who else did you play against? You played against Eldrick Robinson, who was a wide receiver who had a pretty decent career. Kelvin Beacham is now a starting tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. I know that because I'm a fan of the Arizona Cardinals. Chris Banjo's a safety for the Arizona Cardinals, too. There's like 8 guys that played in the NFL on that SMU team. It's crazy.
We had 2, Josh McNary and Ali.
That's true. That's true, man.
I guess Ali didn't play in that game. I guess Ali was gone.
Oh no, 1. Yeah, Josh. Yeah, Josh. Yeah. I mean, crazy. 8-1 or whatever you have, you and the Army prevails anyway. So I don't know. It's just pretty. Do you ever think about that, or even you, Jason, the guys that you played that played in the NFL, or are still playing in the NFL?
I just remember. I think the biggest moment for me was when I went to the center. When I went to the coin toss against Notre Dame, and I shook Michael Floyd's hands, and they were the biggest hands I'd ever shaken in my entire life. And then I shook Harrison Smith's hands. They're the safety for the Vikings. I believe he still plays. And remember shaking his hand and being like, these guys are different breed. And I'm standing there, next to some pretty big guys. But Michael Floyd, still this day, biggest hands, biggest man I've ever shaken hands with on the 50-yard line. And it was that's really the only time where I was like, damn, that's a big guy.
Yeah, we looking back, you always reflect back on the guys you played with and played against. I think my best memory. I've got a lot of memories. Not a lot of them great, but majority of them pretty good. The best memory I have is when I cut Mateo in that Notre Dame game and beat up. But then looking over, he got up so quick and made the tackle like 20 yards later downfield. I was just like, my gosh. Some of those guys are different breed, like Steve said, but there were some great players we played against. But at the end of the day, I think our team as a whole was a tighter knit team and a better team for what we've done in our careers.
Yeah, Manti Te'o was, as a college linebacker, maybe it didn't translate maybe in the NFL, but he was a fantastic college linebacker. Since we call this, we're calling this podcast Old Grads, right? So, Steve, we know you're at Fort Campbell right now. Jason, are you still in the military, or what was your path after West Point?
Yeah, I'm still in the military. I'm in the I'm a commander down in Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia. So I'm actually 10 years in the Army as of last week. So wow. It was a big celebration. Not really, but anyways, yeah, I'll stay in the Army for a little bit longer.
What kind of kept you in? Because you had the 5 years that you have to do, but what kind of kept you in? Would you say?
It's funny you ask the question. I get asked the question a lot. Why did you join the military? To that question, I answer, I didn't know anything about the military until West Point. I went to West Point to play football. It wasn't until about senior year, junior year, where I was like, okay, I can kind of make a career out of this thing. Really enjoy it. And what I found was what I enjoyed most was the camaraderie with the guys, guys and gals with the like-minded mindset, to where you want to be the best you can be at your job, your profession, and you want to do it well, and you want to support the people next to you. So that kind of carried me through my career so far in the last 10 years. Is what I want to do is I want to be with like-minded individuals who are willing to serve and sacrifice, and at the end of the day, help their brother and sister to left and right.
No doubt. Steve, was there NFL possibilities for you or no? I'm trying to remember.
I had a short stint where I went to a NFL regional combine, did pretty well, got a couple calls, and it basically came down to, my wife was, pregnant at the time, and I had to make a decision if I was going to go chase this dream or stay in. One of my biggest mentors Colonel Gene Polka, retired now. He was the head OR of our team and really was my, when I couldn't call my dad, he was the man that gave me all the advice in the world, the military advice in the world that I could ever ask for. And he basically told me, Steve, one, it's an easy transition from being a football player to an infantryman. All right, it's just you have instead of winning on Saturday, you just have to win every day with your team. Instead of working out with the football team, you're working out with your platoon, company, whatever it is. Instead of getting, ready for, this team, you're practicing battle drills or you're doing anything like that. So the transition is super easy. You're still part of a team that wants to get physically better every day while mastering your craft. So real easy. But he was like, just stay in until you don't like it anymore. So far, I, like Jason, I hit 10 years this December because my prep school year counted as 1 year of active duty. So I hit 10 years on the 30th actually, and it'll be I'm going to stay in until I don't like it anymore. I feel like I have some dark years ahead of me as a field grade, just grinding on staff again. But I know that I enjoy being a part of the team, being a part of something bigger than myself.
No doubt. Just incredible because some people, I think, I don't know if the program's changed much. Like Jason, you said you came to play football, right? And then you learned a little bit more about the military. How much do you think that is the not a percentage, but the story of a lot of these guys? Because even like during recruiting and the kids that are committing now in to the 2021 class, I'll ask them and they're like, well, the first time I heard was when Army started recruiting me. Heard about West Point, but then some of them have a lineage where their fathers or relatives did go to academies. So, what do you think? What do you think that you think that's you think you're the norm, or do you think you were the norm, or now?
I think there's a certain population of guys who haven't heard of West Point or military academies prior to going there, but deep down inside, I think everyone who goes to West Point, whether they're an athlete or an academic, or they have ambitions to be a senator one day or whatever the case may be, but they have this inside ambition, they have this inside kind of the ideology that they have to serve in some way, shape, or form. And as soon as you get to the West Point, as soon as you get to any military academy, I think it really comes out of you. It gives you the ability to be a leader, puts you in leadership positions, and gives you opportunity to learn real quick, and then do better than the peers you left back in high school. If I were to go back any summer between plebe, yuck, cow, first of the year, I'd see my friends and see what they were doing, and I was just taken aback and kind of had that ability to self-reflect on what I was doing, and it was meaningful to me, and it was also going to be meaningful in the future. So, whether or not they go there with that preconceived notion that, hey, I want to be a general one day, or just, hey, I want to lead troops in combat. Once you get there, it's because you automatically realize that what you're doing has meaning, and it's going to be meaningful to you and to the people you serve with.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Very few people in the world do anything that they think they're going to do at 18 years old, and that's what they end up doing when they grow up. And so I think it's important to, and I think this is where Coach Ellerson missed the recruiting piece a little bit, where you don't need general officers in high school to commit to West Point to play football. You just need guys that are good dudes that want to make a program better and get to meet a whole bunch of new people all across the nation. And I think it's important that we tell these guys, look, no serious commitment until your junior year, man. Like, come try it out. Look, there's going to be some dark days. It's going to be rough. But when you come see the facilities, when you play on Saturdays, when you meet the guys that are almost exactly like you up here and in here, we hope that you stay. And I know for a fact, I went to the prep school because it wasn't a year of eligibility against me. I went to the prep school because it was one of the prep schools that accepted me. I didn't have to start my year of eligibility. I could keep my full eligibility to transfer or go play for UMass or a 1AA or UConn, who was calling me from, when I was at prep school. But it was the guys. It was Josh McNary, Donovan Travis, Pat Mealy, Richard King. It was all those guys I went to prep school with, and then guys like I met, like Jason, Thayer, the linebackers, Brad Marin, those guys that kept me at this point. I was like, you know what, it's not that bad. Look, I had my fair share of hiccups at the academy now. Like I could have left a couple times when I got my feet to the fire. But it was those guys and the advice of my dad that really kept me there for as long as it did. And then eventually it was like, I'm a captain of the football team. I guess I am here to stay. And then, so I think it's important that when we recruit these young kids, we know that, hey, do you want to be a general officer? Oh, it's okay. Like, do you want to play football to the best of your ability for the next 2 years and see where this academy takes you? Yes, sir. Yes, coach, I do. All right, come join the team. We'll get you right.
It's crazy now because it's a little bit different because I think the numbers, like sometimes you see Monken's recruiting classes, there's like 90 kids in the recruiting class. It's in upwards of 75 guys a recruiting class. So it's almost like every spring or every preseason, you're trying out for your position. If you're a starter, you're pretty cemented. But those guys that aren't, they really have to earn it. They have to work. Like a Radigan had to work his way up, and you look at what John Radigan's done this year is incredible. I mean, from his sophomore year on, he had to work his way up, and you're just trying to stay on the scout team sometimes, Jason. It's crazy with the numbers. Like, I thought Coach Monken quoted Air Force as having 240 players this year available to him. That's nuts. I mean, considering what is it, scholarships 85 or in that neighborhood, and wow. I mean, it's just Army, no doubt, makes you like West Point can humble you on the football field as well as in the academic and also the cadet part of it, no doubt, right?
Absolutely. It's interesting too. The guys we played with, I know from my year, guys like George Fletcher, Steve, all these guys who were successful on the football field are now successful in the Army and what they've done later on. So, to Steve's point, just talking to the young guys early on, saying, "Hey, come to the team, come to the academy, try it out for a year or two. If you don't like it, that's okay. Like maybe it's not for you, it's not for everyone. But if you enjoy it and you want to compete and you want to be a go-getter, a team player, part of the brotherhood, stay." And so when you have freshman teams that are, I think in 2006, I think we had 110, 115 guys on the freshman team. It was like, okay, I'm here to compete. And I'm here to learn, and I'm here to grow, and that's exactly what we did in that first year. Was every day was a competition, and it got us better. Without competition, it's a lackluster performance. So I was super lucky and super fortunate to have the opportunity to play in a couple of games my freshman year, but ultimately that comes down to the coach's trust in players and their ability to perform.
Yeah, go ahead.
Straight up with you, Sal. When I was being recruited from West Point, I was told I would not have to do anything militarily. I would just go there to play football, and I would graduate making $100,000 a year. So I'm glad they told me that because it got me there. It got my foot in the door. Really, real recruiting 101 right there. Tell the guy that what he wants to hear. But I'm glad they did it because I would have never, if I would have known what I knew after a year at the academy or a year at prep school, like, I don't know if I would have chose that right away. So I think to just dovetail off of what Jason said, like, it's really important that these seniors and juniors and sophomores actually tell these guys what they're getting into because, it's not all, whatever that saying is, unicorns and butterflies or whatever, but it's a lot better than, a lot of people make it out to be in the outside world. So I'm just grateful I had guys like Jason, I had guys like Ali, I had guys like, Chuck Eason and Frank Scapitici and, Plumstead, all those backers that really took me under their wing as a freshman. That kind of showed me that, look, man, it's not that bad here. Just quit quit stepping on your own toe a little bit and give the place a real shot, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about the linebackers that Army's had during the Monken era. You go from Andrew King, Jeremy Timph, Nautical, Christensen, now, Radigan and Eric Smith. But back then, Steve, I mean, you had some pretty good ones that you played with, that were before you, that you played with, and even after you. I mean, I look at, after you, it was Erzinger you played with Erzinger, obviously, and there was Andrew Rodriguez too. I mean, linebacker has always been a pretty solid position in the program since I've been covering it, at least, so.
Yeah, I mean, we were the Shinebackers. That was our name for a long time. So we try to own that.
Nice. Real quick, this is the last thing we'll touch on. Just talk about the 2010 team and the guys that made up the 2010 team, both of you guys. I mean, you talk about guys that, the Brad Marins of the world. I think of a Marcus Hilton I can remember. You think of a Mike Gann. On offense, of course, we talked about Steelman. I think Jared Hassan was kind of one of the top backs when you're in that 2010 season. And, it's just it seems like it was a collective group of guys. Yeah, you had some guys that maybe shine more than others, but when it came down to it, you guys were fully invested in each other and the team, it seemed like.
Yeah, I'll cover the defensive side of the ball. Jason, you can hit the offense, but I mean, yeah, we had Mike Gann, Josh McNary, Zach Watts was making a play. Andrew Rodriguez was recovering from an injury, but we had him for the year. Steve Erzinger, we had Donnie Dixon, Donovan Travis, Jordan Trimble, Richard King. I would say probably, Marcus Hilton, obviously. I'd say, I think 7 out of the 11 starters were all Prepster guys that we all played at prep school together.
Wow.
So we've been playing a long time together, and that was kind of the core group on defense. And, of course, you had to have your guys that spell. I had Kingsley, spell me when I couldn't, play at my top capability, and all those guys that came in after that. But, yeah, I mean, we had been together since 2006. I mean, 4 strong years of playing football together with that core group of defense. So, yeah, I mean, it was either do your job or we're going to let you know about it, because nobody was too big to be held accountable that year, because everybody remembers what we were all like at 18 years old trying to figure out what we were going to do with our lives at Army.
Hey, you talk about accountability, Steve. Part of me, I reflect back and think, man, I was a huge a-hole a lot of time. But a lot of it, I had to be. I think a lot of the guys had to be, because sometimes you just get run down and you have an off day. But part of being an a-hole, at the end of the day, you go back to the guy you're talking to and trying to coach him up, and then you go back to him and say, hey, you doing okay, man? Like, how's your day going? What do you need help with? Like, let's look at some film. Let's look at some things we did wrong today, and how we can improve on those things. So that brotherhood, that team mentality, especially in 2010, the seniors we had, holy cow, we had a great group of guys. Sort of Zach Peterson at center. I mean, the powerhouse. Seth Reed, left guard, right guard. He was all over the place, but at the end of the day, he was probably the one guy who kept the offensive line together like glue. East Mersey on their side, he's been a constant communicator of the alumni now, just trying to keep all the boys together, keep that brotherhood alive. He's doing podcasts just like you are now, Sal, trying to keep the brotherhood going. I was playing the other side. You got Pat Mealy in the backfield along with George Fletcher, and Jared Hassan. When he was healthy, he was a rock star too. But at the same time, like, everyone worked together, everyone held each other accountable. And if you look at it now, I'm pretty certain that every guy mentioned is still serving in the military. If not, he just recently got out. And that's kind of a token or a testament to the kind of group of guys we had as leaders, wanting to always serve and serve alongside like-minded individuals.
Yeah, no, I have one more quick. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I got one more person that has to be mentioned. And it's because he has been a constant mentor in my life. Is now Colonel Adisa King. He was not new, but he was back in Army for this first year during this football season, as Major Adisa King. And one of the first things he brought me in to talk to me about was accountability. You know, who you hold accountable to. Look, if I catch someone messing up, I'm coming to you. I'm going to ask you why you're not holding people accountable. So hold the brotherhood accountable. It's much better if a brother corrects you than someone outside the family. If someone outside the family is trying to fix you, if another cadet's trying to fix you, if another teacher is trying to fix you, and there's a brother that let it happen, you're failing as a leader. He brought that to, you know, this team. You know, that's something that I still try to do as much as possible within my company, within the platoons, what I try to teach these young officers. Like, don't let anybody come into your family and correct you. Like, you hold everybody accountable, you'll be a successful unit. Nobody's going to get your name hold, because at the end of the day, they're saving you from getting corrected by guys like me, who's going to make it a problem.
No doubt. Well said. Just my last quick question was a quirky question. Who had the best nickname on the 2010 Army football team? I think Steve might claim that nickname, but we'll see. Jason, we'll go with you first.
I don't know. I had a pretty good nickname. It was Gypsy. I can't really tell that story for a couple of reasons, but at the same time, it was a pretty good nickname. It's stuck with me ever since. Even guys today are George Fletcher. I work with him on a daily basis, and he'll walk around the company area or the battalion area and be like, "Yo, Gypsy," you know, and not a single person is like, "Oh, I know that guy." It's everyone's like, "Who the hell is Gypsy?" But Fletch knows. I know. I don't know. There's a lot of great nicknames. You have to come back to me in this one, and so I can tell you an appropriate one. But Steve, you go ahead first.
So I got Gypsy is obviously a favorite, but I think one guy who it's funny, Jason says that because it happens to me too. I'll be walking around with my guys, and someone will be like, "Fitty," and everybody be like, "Who's Fitty?" And I'm like, "That's me." Just what's up, guys? But I really liked Zach Peterson, the Truth. His nickname was Zip, the Truth Peterson. And I cannot help but when I see him, he's forward right now. But me and him are neighbors. We live right next to each other. But the Truth. that's because Zach is, Zach's like Jason now, where Jason actually started slimming a little sooner. I mean, I think Jason played about 265 his senior year, but Zach is, he played about 285, 290, and he's at like 215 now. I work with Ryan Powis. Ryan Powis is a commander in the same battalion as me. Another guy who played at 290. He's about 220 now. Bryce Holland just got his Ranger tab, was the best officer graduate at Ranger School, just got his EIB. He played about 310. He's 225, 230 now. Like, these guys are incredible at how much weight they just shred after football season.
It is crazy. I mean, I looked at, who a guy I looked at too back a couple of years ago, Momo Kine. Momo Kine was a big guy, and then within like a couple months, like say the spring after the football season, I'm like, holy cow! It was like almost like a 25 to 30 pound difference in him, and I mean, I guess that prepares you for the military, and I guess the physical fitness test too that guys have to pass, right, to get past West Point and stuff.
Yeah, so from an offensive line perspective, like the majority of the guys are pushing 3 bills, and that offseason after their last season, it's astonishing to see what they look like from January 1st up until June 1st. Just the amount of weight that's shed, it's amazing. Like Steve said, I graduated December 17th, so I had to cut a little bit of weight from 285 down to 265. My fighting weight is about 265, and then when I graduated and went to IBOLC about 2.5 months later, I had to report at 215, 225. So,
Wow.
40 pounds in 2 months is tough, but they're all programs set up. And I think Scott Swanson, nickname AKA Satan, probably the best nickname, the one that stuck with him for 20 years.
That's true. That's a good one. It is a good one.
He's got a great regiment for guys to lose weight, and he knows how to do it.
Was that his motorcycle outside the weight room, or was that his? Or
that is his motorcycle. He rode it up to the gym every day and showcased that thing. It was great. I I think was it West Coast Customs? No, it was OC Riders. Who was it made that bike for him?
Oh, not Orange County Choppers.
Yeah, it was Orange County Choppers.
Wow. Yeah, it was Choppers. Yeah, they were right out of the. They weren't in Poughkeepsie. I don't know where they were, but
they're Montgomery, New York, about half an hour from West Point, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. Yeah, wow, that's man. I never got to that story. I got to the story about Satan and the bike and the. I mean, I remember seeing him around. He programmed a lot. Obviously, now they have different. They have a guy who's completely in charge. Was he completely in charge of the football program, strength and conditioning wise, with you guys, or no?
We had a couple guys in the gym. I think we had Brett Gertz for a while. But was the guy
Gabe
controlled all four.
Yeah, Gabe Harrington was who was there. He was basically the. So I think Satan was passing the reins to Gabe when we were freshmen, Jason. I think when you were a freshman or when I was a freshman, that was right when Satan was, got the bump to be in the head of Division I sports, but still very, very much into football specifically. And then by the time I left, I mean, he was, he was the head guy at West Point for anything physical. I mean, if you wanted a program, he was the program guy that he went through. And we had Brett Gertz, who was our strength coach, really just owned the football program. But, it was not hard to get Satan's attention, get Coach Schwanker's attention. If you wanted to ask him about football specific, what do you need? Like he'd definitely stop what he was doing to help you out.
Yeah. Okay, Jason.
The unsung hero of the entire core squad and even football team is TK, Tim Kelly, man. That guy, I still see him on the games, like running up to the field, just jogging, same joggers he's had on for past 10 years. That guy's a phenom. He's the strength conditioner, or the
trainer, right?
the trainer, physical therapist, and everything under that realm. He will put you on stem and ice and put you in an ice bath and put you through exercises and get you back. I know Steve and I both shared our fair share of injuries. I think I had 4 surgeries at the academy. So, that guy was like my step uncle who knew everything about me,
Yeah, no doubt. Lots of great memories today, guys. I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, especially it's pretty timely with it's bowl season now, right? And so to talk about those 2010 memories and your time at West Point and your time, as now officers, that 10 years goes by way fast. I mean, I remember like yesterday being at SMU's field, and why am I forgetting what the field was called? But at SMU's field, and you guys celebrating that big win, and it's just like it's a great memory for me. I'm sure it's a great memory for you, and I appreciate you guys popping on. This was our first edition of Old Grads. So
yeah, first edition, and really all I want for Christmas, Sal, is a bowl game win. All right, beat West Virginia.
We'll throw something in here, Sal, real quick. Since we are doing this kind of forum for Old Grads, there's an Army football alumni group on Facebook for all former Army football players. It's a support group. It's if you ever need help with anything, anything personal, emotional, you need somebody to come help you move, need a good recommendation for a restaurant, tailgating, tickets, Army football alumni on Facebook. That's the go-to spot for anyone who needs any kind of support or just wants to be tied into the brotherhood.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that, Jason. We'll wrap up this edition of the Black Knight Nation podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube, Black Knight Nation, and you can follow us on. You see at the bottom of the screen there, we have all the stuff coming up with Twitters, and now we're on Apple Podcasts too. Guys, really appreciate your time tonight, and we'll look forward to talking to you guys soon.
All right, be West Virginia.